Tri-City Sports Now on 1420 NBC Sports Radio Tri-Cities. I am your voice of choice, Marky Billson, and we are here with someone who was known as the top golf writer in America before he retired. Marino Paracenzo covered golf for more than a generation for the Pittsburgh Press and Post-Gazette. He knew Arnold Palmer personally. In fact, in talking to him a little bit off the air, he told me that he took up golf because of Arnold Palmer. Palmer was a great source of his career. If you ever used to get the old Information Please Sports Almanac and you'd read the yearly write-up of golf, yes, this was who wrote it. Marino Paracenzo joins us on Tri-City Sports Now. I am honored to have you because I'm very familiar with your work, Marino, and with this a sad day because of the passing of Arnold Palmer. I want to welcome you to the show here in the Tri-Cities, Tennessee area. You told me that you started to know Arnold Palmer really in the second half of his career when he was more of the ambassador of golf after he'd won his last tournament. But can you tell me a little bit about, how you came about to meet the great golfing legend Arnold Palmer?
Actually, I went down to Laurel Valley. Now this is like yesterday for me, but it's ancient history to you. 1975, the Ryder Cup played there, and I had spoken maybe once or twice to Arnold somewhere along the line. I was just a brand new 75. I was a brand new golf writer, and I wanted to do something different for my advanced story, and I had to set up a picture for the photographer, and I didn't, I wanted to get an idea. I didn't have to do it, but if I get an idea. I spotted my wife's old kerosene lantern that she bought at some flea market, so I grabbed that and took it with me thinking I'm going to do a Paul Revere thing. Excuse me, cotton-picking cell phone is believe that.
We're talking with Marino Paracenzo.
I'm sorry.
Here we are, who is was very close with the late, great Arnold Palmer. And Marino, are you back with us here?
I am. I just turned off the cell phone, got ready.
Okay. Well, you were talking about Laurel Valley and meeting Arnold Palmer.
So I got on there, and I introduced the officials at the Ryder Cup, the PGA officials told me, that's dumb, you'll never do it, it's embarrassing, this, that, one thing, and another, but, who cares? I'm going to try it, and the worst you can say is no, correct? And I always let the other guy say no, so I said, I'd like to do a Paul Revere thing, and I don't have a church steeple, and I don't have a horse for you to ride on. But could you go up on that dormer up there in the clubhouse and hang out the window? And he said, "Yeah, I'll do that." Now, just think, this is Arnold Palmer. This is not some golfer that's hoping to get some publicity. This is Palmer, and he won his last PGA Tour event in '73. So this is 2 years later. And he went up there, and by golly, he hung out the window swinging that lantern, and the picture makes the front page of the paper. We're doing The British Are Coming, that sort of thing. And I thought, boy, this is a hell of a guy. And I didn't realize what a hell of a guy he really was until I got to know him better and better over the years. And he was astonishing. It's the only thing I can say.
If you want to know why Marino Paracenzo was America's top golf writer, it's because he had a flair for this sort of thing, using the human interest and certainly comedy, like he just mentioned right there with the story of the Paul Revere shot. But now you told me that you really were indifferent to the game, and Palmer really helped you get involved in golf and really start to love it. Can you tell me a little bit about how that occurred?
Well, he didn't do it deliberately. Let me put it this way. It was in the, I don't know, somewhere in the 60s or something. I was a bow shooter at the time, target shooting with the bow and doing other things, and golf was of no interest to me. But I happened to be watching the Masters. This is before, I think it was even before color TV. I happened to be watching the Masters, and Palmer missed a green somewhere. I have no idea where it was. And he was off the back end, and there was a huge crowd, and they had to separate so he could go down to his ball, and as I know now, he was going to have to chip. I wouldn't even know what that was back then, but I heard the announcer saying very softly, as Palmer passed by, young Arnold Palmer is in a little bit of trouble. And I heard Palmer say, young Arnold Palmer is in a lot of trouble. And I thought, oh, what's going on here? Well, this wasn't the power golf that I knew Arnold was famous for. He faced an incredibly difficult chip shot, something very delicate. So if the thing fell quiet, all these thousands of people dead quiet, and Palmer goes down to his ball, and I'm watching this saying, well, I wonder if he can do this. And suddenly, I felt the drama of it. You know what I mean? The tension. You could feel the drama was building as he was approaching the ball. And I said, "Wow, this game is something." Well, by the way, he pulled the shot off. He got it up on the green. He got down. I don't remember the hole. I don't remember the year. I don't know if he won that one or not. But I thought, boy, this is something. Maybe there's something to this game. So I went out to try it. And I found out I couldn't hit a ball sitting on the ground at my feet with this big, long club. I couldn't do it. I said, I got to give this a try. Now, I was never any good at golf, but I always enjoyed it very much. And I told Arnold about that story. He said, I vaguely remember something like that. But I said, you're the one to blame for me getting stuck in golf.
You know,
that's how he affected me.
We're talking with Marino Paracenzo about the Arnold Palmer who passed away yesterday at the age of 87. I wanted to ask you, for a younger generation, we may not necessarily understand how a man who won, I believe it was 8 majors, but that's significantly less than Jack Nicklaus, who won 20, got to have such reverence in the game of golf. Why it is Palmer who is viewed as the king, and maybe not a Tiger Woods or a Tom Watson or a Jack Nicklaus. Why is it Palmer that is the Babe Ruth of golf, let's say?
Palmer, it was the good fortune of golf that Palmer came along when he did, because Palmer made the game what it is today. And here's how. He had this tremendous charisma, and believe me, you can only say it, and you can't define it, and you can't measure it, but when you get near him, you found it. You knew it. And he had this charisma, as I say. He had this terribly bold game. He was crazy bold with his golf. The guy after him that I remember even approached him was Seve Ballesteros, the wild Spaniard. But Palmer just brought that flash and fire to the game that nobody else did. At the same time, television was just getting started. It was nothing like we have today, of course, but you were getting live television. So when Palmer clicked on television, he suddenly electrified the whole country to golf. Now, you can't compare that to Tiger Woods. If you look at the figures, you will find out Tiger Woods did not grow the game of golf as such. He did not inspire any growth in the game. As a matter of fact, golf is still in a slide, not because of Tiger, but it's still in a slide, as you know, and as your golf courses know. What Tiger inspired was the watching of golf, and he just totally electrifying guy to watch play golf. But people did not take up the game the way they did with Palmer. Palmer blew the game sky high, and to this day, there's a plaque at the Masters, which says, in effect, Palmer made the Masters. And as a matter of fact, the chairman of the Masters told me that himself.
Would you therefore say that his victory in the 64 Masters...
I'm sorry, I couldn't quite get that from the...
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say, would you then say that his victory in the 64 Masters was the greatest Masters, or, well, let's ask you that. Would that be known as the greatest Masters because Palmer won it?
Well, he won in 58. He won 4 of them, you know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He won in 58. And let me see, I don't have, well, every other year, 58, 60, 62, and 64.
I was thinking that being probably the last victory in the great rivalry with Nicklaus, I guess was why I was kind of harping on 64. Plus, it's the most recent one. But would you, like I said, would you consider that to be his greatest victory? Let's ask.
I don't know that I can weigh it that way.
Okay.
He just no. I don't think I can. I don't think I can name a greatest Palmer victory. I don't think I can do that.
All right. Do you think that though those Masters victories are what people remember him for more than, and we talked a little bit about this off the air, on his, it's not necessarily his home course, but Oakmont Country Club in Western Pennsylvania, and of course Arnold Palmer from Latrobe, and in the 62 U.S. Open, a great match that goes into extra holes against Jack Nicklaus. Nicklaus arrives by defeating Palmer. Would you say that that is the round that he is best known for, even in defeat?
Oh, absolutely. As a matter of fact, you touched on a point that, perversely enough, I think the 62 Open is the major that Palmer is best known for losing, not for winning any of the others. Remember, he was leading by 3 shots with 9 holes to play, and his boldness cost him the tournament, really. When he went for the 9th green in 2, leading by 3 shots, and Nicklaus was playing a couple of holes ahead of him.
I was hoping
Wanted to get any. It's a short par 5, and Palmer, being Palmer, he wasn't content to guard or protect a 3-shot lead. He wasn't going to go for just a birdie, which he would have gotten, I'm sure. He wanted an eagle, because that's the way Arnold played. He wasn't thinking of Nicklaus. He wasn't thinking of anybody else. It was him and the golf course.
Now I see. And this is
he
great.
Went after the 9th hole, and he missed it just slightly to the right. Then he blew a shot, just terribly chunked chip shot that didn't get to the green. And the next one went too far, about 20 feet past or something like that. And next thing you know, he's made a bogey instead of a birdie. He's got a bogey, and now Nicklaus is just one behind. And remember, Nicklaus, by the way, when you talk in all these reverential tones about Palmer, remember, people were very angry with Nicklaus for beating Palmer. People everywhere were. I heard insults hurled at Jack, not only in the Pittsburgh area, anywhere I went. Jack Nicklaus is one hell of a guy.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't. I don't know that he has that charisma thing, but he is. You know, he is one hell of a guy, and he sure didn't deserve all those insults. But he had the misfortune to beat Arnold in that respect.
Nicholas Palmer goes down as one of sport's great rivalries, but would you say it is the friendliest rivalry?
No.
Okay.
I wouldn't think it was friendly. I think they were friends, and they became friends later when they no longer were competing with each other. But I don't think they're any friendlier with. This is not to say they're. Don't misunderstand. I'm not saying they're enemies, but you know, are you friends with a guy who wants to date the same girl you want to date?
I see.
I think that's it right there. They're courting the same siren, and I don't think they're in love with each other. I'm sure they respect each other. They're courteous and everything like that, but I think each one of them hoped the other one would go away. Now, they never said that. This is all coming off the top of my head.
Mm-hmm. Now, in the second half of Arnold Palmer's career, and really to younger people like me, we kind of knew him as, you know, yesterday's hero, but a great gentleman. I can recall, for instance, Marino reading, maybe it was Golf Digest, but a golf magazine. They had some sort of quiz, and the question was, let's say you went to dinner with Arnold Palmer, and in the parking lot you got into the car and you nicked someone's fender, and Arnold said, "This will be just our little secret. What would you do?" It was sort of a gentlemanly test of the game. I remember reading that and thinking, Arnold Palmer would never do that.
Oh,
and
no.
Yes.
I was just about to ask you, who came up with that absurd thing?
It was in an old golf magazine, sort of a quiz that one would take. I want to say Golf Digest, but I can't place it. But I do remember reading that, and I remember saying, you know, Arnold Palmer would never do that. Do you think that there are any athletes today that have such character where we would immediately, in today's gotcha world, where we'd immediately, just the idea of something like that would be considered to be preposterous?
If you had Arnold Palmer before he had won a golf tournament, before anybody knew him beyond his family, he wouldn't have done something like that. For one thing, his dad was a tough cookie. And so I'm guessing, and he talked long about his dad, even long after his dad passed away. His dad brought up a tough kid and a good kid. And Arnold would, I'm just flabbergasted that somebody even would come up with a question like that. I would say, you know, you could come up with some crazy question in golf, but, you know, no, I don't even know what to say about that. No, he wouldn't do it.
Yes, I see something like that. Marino Paracenzo, formerly of the Pittsburgh Press and Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, and as I said, a lot of people know him from the Information Please Sports Almanac, where he would always write the year in review for golf, certainly sharing some memories of Arnold Palmer. Final question, what is your everlasting memory of the King of Golf?
My first interview with him, and all I remember the interview was about his first 15 words. And Marky, I'm going to wrap up Palmer for you in a very brief little story. It was one of my early Masters. Palmer was done winning. We didn't know this. And at the Masters, at this particular Masters, he shot 80 or 81. He was horrible. And I didn't know him at the time, and he didn't know me. So we're not talking about him confiding in me. I was just another golf writer. I thought anybody can shoot 80, 81. But when Arnold Palmer shoots 80, 81, that's a news story. So I've got to go talk to him. Now, that is a disaster. And now, remember, we're talking in terms of golf as a disaster. We're not talking about real life. So, but Arnold shoots 80, 81. That's a news story. So I go to the locker room to interview him, and I really don't want to. It's a tough time to talk to anybody, but it's one of those things news guys got to do once in a while. Well, about 5 other writers, none of which I remember, had the same idea I did. Palmer was sitting there. Now, first, let me give you a background. You know, today's, or matter of fact, athletes of all time, you know, they're very demanding, they're ego-driven, they are entitled, they're swamped with entitlement, and they want, but they really don't want to give. So we understand all of that. That's human nature. Well, we go to talk to Arnold, and we're standing there uncomfortably in front of him while he's sitting at his locker dejected, looking down at a can of beer. And then somebody in our group said, Arnold, we hate to have to talk to you at a time like this. Palmer looked up, and he said, fellas, we talked when times were good. We'll talk when times are bad. And I don't remember a word after that. But I've never forgotten those lines, and I've never seen anything approximating that from anybody.
That is absolutely...
Any athlete, guys that want to throw you out of the locker room, guys that want to bounce on you, you know, this was incredible. And that sums up Palmer for you.
We've been talking to Marino Paracenzo, who, and I mean, he's immodestly accepting my praise, and he's done it before as America's top golf writer, although now retired, talking about Arnold Palmer. Thanks for joining us here on Tri-City Sports Now. It's been a great pleasure. As you know, I've always wanted to talk to you, and I hope this isn't the last time here on Tri-City Sports Now.